Last time we covered getting ready to meditate, and I hope you experimented with that a little bit. It really makes a huge difference in getting ready to sort of charge yourself up in a transition from the rest of the world into meditation. Okay. Matter of fact, let's just start with a little meditation to get going. Just go through the 7 limbs as we're taught in my oral tradition. You start with getting in position, which we'll talk about today, but for now just make your back really straight. You can either have your hands out on your thighs like this, or if you have a nice convenient cloth, which is the only way I can do this, putting your right hand down, or your left hand down and your right hand on top of it, just kind of resting your thumbs together. This is good too, but the thing is to have a little air in the side there, but we'll talk about that later. You get good at this, you just have to practice every day, and then your body gets used to being in the position. Start by focusing on your breath. You can count them in traditional way is out in 1 instead of in out 1. Get rid of any itches or adjustments you have to do, and then after that sit as still as you can. In the Zen tradition they say imagine that there's a rattlesnake sleeping in your lap. First one's for you already. Cleaning up, setting up an altar, making offerings. Now we want to call some help for a meditation. You can either do the thing of imagining every Buddha in the 10 directions and all past, present, future all gathered in front of you. But if you're nervous in front of crowds, you can just take one person, one being that you consider to be holy. A Buddha, a teacher, Dalai Lama, Gandhi, whoever you want. Just sitting there right in front of you, knee to knee. And the first of the 7 ingredients is technically called prostration, but the essence of it is think of one good quality that being in front of you has, that you really admire, that you'd like to have for yourself. Their compassion, their wisdom, their ability to meditate. And just think about how great that is. That's the true meaning of prostration. Next, you want to make an offering of any kind. And again, this is all for your mind. You can imagine a sky full of flowers, incense, beautiful beach, sunlight on a cloudy day, all those nice things. Your favorite food, coolest things you know. You can offer that to them mentally. The thing that matters to them most, one kindness that you've done, one good thing that you've done in the last 24 hours since you meditated last. You can imagine that as a jewel, that goodness, that good seed that you planted and offered to them. And they're like, yay, you're getting it. Thing is you'll get rid of obstacles to meditation, which has to do with your own ethics mostly, and will stop you from meditating. And so think of just one thing that you didn't do so well. Maybe you got mad at somebody. Maybe you cut somebody off in traffic. Maybe you hurt somebody's feelings, disappointed someone. Just confess that to that being in front of you. So I did this thing. I know I could have done better. And now you're unloaded of that thing. And they're like, it's all good. Next is rejoicing. Being happy about good things that you have heard about or seen other people do, as well as yourself. Maybe you heard about the great work of some kind of charity, or maybe you heard about somebody saving somebody else. Maybe you heard about a big Buddhist teaching going on or something, or just something to be happy about. Some good news. Also something that you did that's good. Make it different from the offering that you made before, but some other kindness, like, I'm really studying, I'm really trying. I care about this stuff. So now that we've sufficiently bribed that holy being in front of us and become clean, now we ask the further inspiration or teachings. We ask them to please teach. It just has the effect of making you more open to getting good stuff out of your practice, out of your study. Just say, I'm ready. Ask that being to stay with you, stay in the world, stay close to you. Here you would do whatever meditation you're doing, whether it's analytical or single-pointed, review meditation. Keeping that holy being there. front of you to help you out. And then at the end, you dedicate your practice. It's the seventh ingredient or seventh one. This goodness may quickly become someone who can help other beings ultimately. May they get that help. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So that is the 7 ingredients. Good way to bracket your practice. And so that's pretty much what we covered. That's the main thing of what we covered last week. We covered the 6 steps of getting ready. And then part 5 has 7 steps of its own, and that's what we just meditated on. Bowing, offering, confession, rejoicing, requesting teachings, ask if they stay near, and then dedication. And then the 6th part is requesting blessings, so they're kind of nested. Okay, and today we're going to talk about the 6 conditions to get around to make your meditation successful, and this mostly pertains to retreat. But it's good advice for life, and if you really want to get going on your meditation, these are really good things to kind of organize your life around a little bit. And if you're doing retreat, you definitely need these things. And I'm going to talk a little bit about retreat. And like I said last week, if you don't think now that you're ever going to do retreat, get rid of that thought. There's some possibility that you would do retreat. I know when I started this, it's like, no way. It's never going to happen. And then I found retreat was like the most awesome way to improve your meditation. But the rest of your life supports retreat, and then retreat supports the rest of your life. So you got to kind of have both. So the first of the 6 conditions has 5 parts of its own in a very Jaitzongkapian way. The first condition is called tenpay yul. Say tenpay.
Tenpay.
Yul. Yul means a country or a place. Again, with all these lists, and like I like to say, people say, "Oh, you're a Buddhist. You worship little fat guy in the Chinese restaurant." It's like, no. We worship lists, at least in this tradition. And lists are really a great way to learn things. One of my favorite comedy and education websites called Cracked, and everything's a list, and it's hilarious. And I learn a lot. And same thing with the Dharma, so it kind of works. So what is a good place? Oh, and tenpay means like harmony, smooth flowing kind of thing. So what is a good place to do meditation, especially retreat, because when you're really going for it in your meditation practice, you become really sensitive. So, and also you'll notice that a lot of these lists are very short, like a harmony place. You need a harmony place. And the thing was, back in the day, you had to like memorize these lists, and then later they tell you what they mean. They spell it out for you a little bit. And we'll talk about where all this comes from. It's again, this is Jaitzongkapa's chapter on meditation, but he's borrowing from everybody, which is considered good form in Buddhist writing. You're not supposed to invent your own stuff. Plagiarism's a good thing, and just making up stuff is a bad thing. We'll talk about where all this comes from later on. But first of all, so when you're in retreat or when you're meditating, the first part is your physical needs need to be well taken care of, okay? Some people go overboard. They hear about, like Milarepa meditating in a cave and living on nettle tea, until his skin turns green. It's like, cool, I want to do that, especially martial arts types, right? It's like, bring it on, I want the hardcore and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but that's good, but you kind of need to have just enough comfort so it's not a distraction, okay? If you start getting caught up in how hardcore you are, you know, or having to deal with heat and cold and bugs and mildew and all of that, you're not doing meditation, okay? You're just kind of showing off, and then, you know, you can tell people how intense your retreat was and everything. It's like, so, you know, which begs the question, you know, Diamond Mountain, 40 of my friends are in 3-year retreat. It's a terrible place. I'm so glad to be away from it. Oh my gosh, too hot in the summer, obviously, but you wouldn't think too cold in the winter, right? I mean, mainly heat is a big problem there. We didn't install any air conditioners in those cabins, but heat is like a requirement. I mean, yeah, you can do it, and it's true. You get to be a bigger meditator, then the physical world doesn't bother you as much, okay? But especially when you're trying to learn single-pointed meditation, when you're trying to get to that place, you know, you need some level of comfort without a lot of distractions. We'll talk about it some more. It should be a safe place. Like, there shouldn't be bears or feral pigs, javelinas roaming around like there is at Diamond Mountain, you know, or scorpions or rattlesnakes like there is at Diamond Mountain. You don't want to be worried about what's hiding under your bed when you're in retreat or trying to do meditation, so it should be a relatively safe place. Should I? Yeah. You know, we'll go through the list, and I'll tell a few stories of a retreat that illustrate some of these, okay? And as I was writing this, I got this backwards, okay? The next thing they say is a good environment, meaning that, you know, no extremes of heat and cold like there is at Diamond Mountain. There shouldn't be any noise. It should be a healthy place, you know, like the dust shouldn't give you valley fever like it does at Diamond Mountain. One thing I can say about Diamond Mountain is the quiet is incredible, especially in the retreat valley. I mean, you get there, you shut off your engine, you open the car door, and it's like the sound just almost, it's not there. It just kind of sucks you out. It's amazing. And that's really good because it drives you inside your mind, okay? Regardless of how good a meditator you are, there are a lot of automatic processes, right, in your senses and in your brain that just, when there's a noise, part of the mind goes, you know, what is that? Identify that. Oh, okay, you know. Which, you know, for your daily meditation, and if you live in the middle of a city, it's like, okay, you know, what can you do? To get really, really good at meditation, though, you need to spend some time where there's just fewer distractions. Okay. And you're probably wondering what's the difference between physical needs and a good environment. This pertains more to your personal comfort. Good food, it's perfect if you can do a retreat and someone else is cooking for you, okay? If not, you know, having a lot of stuff ready to go. A lot of people I know from Diamond Mountain get really into, oh, what's that Indian food that's almost like baby food? It's lentils and rice. You know, and you know, you start needing, if you get really into retreat, you start to crave really simple foods that are easy to digest and just give you a little bit of energy, and you don't need as much. It's really kind of interesting. You know, my first retreat, I went in, you know, with Pop-Tarts and all this stuff, but you get into retreat and it's like, oh, and I'm writing notes to the caretakers, you know, it's like, please, spinach, you know, ramen, you know, something, just really light, easy foods that aren't going to take your mind away. The environment is more about the external things that are going on, the heat, the cold, the noise. It should be healthy, you know. A really moldy place isn't bad, it isn't good, you know, or a place that's going to like be making you sneeze or your nose running a lot, or a really dry, dusty place. It depends on you, okay? If you grew up in Southern California, this is just right. If you grew up in the South, it's too dry. If you grew up in the desert, this is too sticky. You know, it's different places. So whatever works for you. And then the fourth one, which I have listed as the third one, good friends. Okay, and what does that mean? Again, this is one of the things that it's really terse in a line from a teaching, and we'll talk about which one. And it's like you don't know what it means until later, but if people are around your retreat or supporting your retreat especially, it's really helpful if they know what you're doing, they believe in it, and you're not like that weird guy who's in the casita for a month, okay? That will you become very sensitive to the psychic environment. And I can't say, at Diamond Mountain, everybody believes in retreat, has done retreat, and they know what you're going through. And okay, one story. My first solo long-term retreat, it was the middle of winter, and there were a lot of things going on in my world, and it just got to the point like, okay, it's time to go away. I had done group retreats. I had done I had done another kind of retreat, but for just about a week, where food was brought to me. I went to this retreat center in Northern California, but before this, so Diamond Mountain, I'm doing my first full-on higher teachings 3-week retreat, and it was in a yurt, which, as you may know, is like a framed tent kind of thing, and it was across the wash from the campground at Diamond Mountain. And because there were no facilities out there, I had my retreat boundary. You set a boundary and you say, I'm not going to cross this line. So the line included the kitchen yurt and the bathrooms, and I would just use this late at night when nobody was around. So about 2 weeks, 10 days are into this retreat, and it's hard. It's the middle of winter. The heat's kind of sketchy, and it's probably not a good idea to go into retreat to escape from all of your world and stuff. It just becomes more intense while you're in retreat. I didn't know that. But everybody there is super supportive, And if someone was up late and then ran across you like you're coming to do dishes, they would just do this thing and pretend you're there and not there, and go about their business and let you finish. So I'm in this really intense retreat, and I go into this building they call the Matrix. It's where there's a sink and the computer's there and all of that. And this guy, Michael Brennan, is there, and it's late at night. He's listening to the Grateful Dead on internet radio, And so I open the door, and he's like, okay, and Michael, it's like, have y'all seen the movie Finding Nemo?
Yeah.
Okay, remember the tortoise, Slash?
Mm-hmm.
That tortoise was modeled after Michael Brennan, okay? He's just like this surfer dude, and he's there listening to the Dead, He goes, oh, sorry, I'll leave. And I'm silent, and I go, I mind, no, stay. He goes, what? And I point to myself. I'm going nuts, And he gives me the best advice ever. He just says, it's supposed to be hard. It's a wave, ride it. Because he had done retreat, and he knew. So, good friends, having people all around, who are really supporting what you're doing. And you're not just like that weird guy in the casita, and just like, don't look at him, don't, Really, really helpful to have attendance, If they know the practice you're doing, it's great, They have faith in your practice, they're supportive, and they're more like right on. Not like, you're doing what? Why? It's the season finale of blah, It's like, they just don't get it, okay? And that's all right, And a lot of this stuff, okay, we're really swimming upstream with this practice, okay? When we get good, we're like, oh, trying to promote my business, I got to promote other people's business. They're going, no, what? What are you doing? It's like, no, you don't get it. I think it's really great, really blissful to meditate. It's like, well, wouldn't you rather go to the water slide or something? It's like, no, you have no idea. It's a very small group of people who believe in this stuff. Okay, and they're not just doing it for fashion or whatever. You got to, as much as you can, surround yourself with people. This good friends thing in general. Build up a group of people who believe in this kind of thing. I think it's going to increase. I think it's going to catch on. 10 years ago, yoga was still kind of a weird thing. Let's say 12 years ago. I always think before my teachers went into 3-year retreat, they come out, 20 or 50 million people are doing yoga, and it's like there's as many yoga studios as there are tattoo parlors. It's like, what's up with that? Okay. A lot of the stuff, I think retreat meditation is the next big thing. I think especially with, the economy, it's like, it's supposed to be that if you work hard, you'll be successful and then you'll have time to relax. I think people are realizing it's like, no, I got to relax now, and they'll be coming to retreat centers saying, please, for God's sakes, take away my cell phone. You know, it could very well happen. And if you do this course, you'll be one of the few people who has the tools to teach them what to do. But I digress. Okay. Yeah, good environment. A place having goodness, okay? Again, this is one of those things, it's all the text says, having goodness. When you're in retreat, you know, you sit down, you try and meditate, and then you get up and you unplug everything. You know, refrigerators are, if you're doing a serious retreat, refrigerator going on sounds like a truck, you know, on the street. Swallowing sounds like, you know, falling down or something, like, ah, you know. No electronics. If you're doing retreat especially, it's better if you don't see any other people. Like you can paper your windows up so that you're only seeing like sky and maybe surrounding. I mean, I've actually done this because if you see other people, your mind, you know, as if you're driving with your dog, you know, and the dog sees another dog, you're like that, you know, you're like that with people, animals, everything. Your mind is just going to go, another living being, okay? The point of this is to drive you deeper into your mind. Yeah, so electronics, people, distractions. It should go without saying, no TV, no listening to music, you know, no books, just relax. Only books on the practice that you're doing, okay? This is if you're doing a serious retreat and you want to get to one of those levels that we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks. Deeper levels of meditation. So that is one of 6 conditions, and it has 5 parts of its own. And this, again, mainly is talking about during retreat. But, you know, it works for the rest of your life, too, you know. You should try to get to a place that's conducive for concentration. I'm struggling with being in the city just a little bit, you know. I'll probably get used to it, you know, or I'll figure out some way to be away from a little ways. But, you know, I mean, a year ago, I would go to sleep at the guardhouse where I was done retreat at Diamond Mountain when I was building construction. And you turn off the lights and you turn off everything, dead black, dead quiet, and you go to sleep. It's freaky, you know, or just the starlight, you know. But then you get used to it and it's just really comforting and you feel really comforted. But then for someone who like lives in the city a lot, you know, that takes some adjustment. It's like, why aren't there any sounds, you know? Why isn't the refrigerator going on? Why isn't the clock ticking, you know? I stay with a friend up in Santa Cruz and, you know, he's got a great big gompa in his living room, meditation place. There's a big grandfather clock over here, you know. I'm like, I can't meditate with that. My mind just goes right to that. I'll just meditate in my room, you know? And so it's funny. Different strokes. All right. Questions about that? Comments? Reflections? All right. You got to do retreats someday. Maybe we'll try and organize one if our group of good friends gets bigger. Okay. All right. Number 2 is dupa chumwa. Say dupa.
Dupa.
Chumwa.
Chumwa.
Okay. This is wanting stuff, and chumwa is little. Chumwa. You know. You don't need very much. Okay. This is living simply. If you want to become a good meditator, cancel your subscription to Consumer Reports or Sharper Image or whatever, okay? That actually gets into the second part more. Actually, 2 and 3, they kind of go together. We'll talk about both of them. Say Chokshepa.
Chokshepa.
So these 2 together, live simply, you don't need much, and then kind of the flip side of that is be satisfied with what you have. Okay. Very, very hard to do, obviously, in our material culture, you know. iPhone 4S is out now, you know, your second generation iPhone that was like the most incredible thing in the universe 4 or 5 years ago is like, it's junk now, you know. You really don't need a lot. You really don't. Believe me, I've gone probably too far to the other extreme at this point. It would be nice to have, you know, a more stable lifestyle that I've had over the last, you know. But I've gotten really good at not needing much, you know. And I was visiting my sister the other last week, you know, and said, man, yeah, I came out of the shower. It's like, you just don't appreciate a shower until you haven't had one for 3 or 4 days. And she's like horrified. You know, it's like, I can't believe that, you know, it's like a daily shower is like, you know, now you guys have traveled, you know that, you know, that's, a daily shower is pretty much an American fetish, right, you know?
So,
Yeah, soap, yeah, well, you know, whatevs. Again, different strokes, okay. You know, and, you know, I got friends that say, you know, a wealthy friend that's saying about somebody else, yeah, they're a good guy, they have a nice car and all that, but man, their home theater is really lousy. You know, it's like they don't have 16 speakers, you know, those poor people, you know. It's relative to where you're at, okay? I remember this great speech from that movie, Wall Street, back in the 80s, Gordon Gekko, you know, it's like, of course we didn't get the lessons of that movie because of the world we're living in now, but, you know, he's saying, it's not about having your own, it's not about riding first class, it's about owning the whole goddamn airplane, you know? You can level up all the time, and it's very easy. I mean, the way our minds work, as soon as we get something, we start seeing how lousy it is and how we need something better. Try and stop that. And then especially in retreat, you know, when I go into retreat, and I've done about 4 long-term solo retreat now, I pack lots of clothes, like this is if it's too hot, this is if it's too cold, you know. I wear t-shirts and sweatpants the entire time, you know. I hope by the next retreat all I need is fresh t-shirts and sweatpants. I'm good, you know. Maybe shorts if it gets hot. You know, you really don't need much, you know. You don't need the dial whatever bed, you know, your sleep number bed, okay? You can get used to living very simply, and it's freeing, you know. It's not like, oh, those poor people. It's like, wow, life's good, you know. Being satisfied with what you have, especially when you go into retreat and you're like, oh no, my favorite blanket or something, you know, it's like, it's okay, I'm good, you know, I will do fine, you know. Or it starts snowing. That happened during one of my retreats, and it's like, I don't have any snow boots. It's like, it's okay, I'm gonna be fine, you know. You just get in this practice of, it's good, it's good. So these are really good for life. Obviously this is very anti-American and communist and, you know, I mean, seriously, in basic economics class, the basic assumption is wants are limitless, and it's just a matter of your resources, how much you're able to satisfy those wants, you know? It's like, wow, you can't put a ceiling on your own wants, you know? Really? That's what they say? Okay. But no, you can, and if you want to be happier, and if you want to learn meditation and get really good at it, you know, do these things. Yeah, whole story about that. It's really fun. Questions, reflections? Anybody want to brag about, you know, oh, I drive a 5-year-old Prius. I don't need the new one. Okay. And I know a lot of you are already doing this, you know. It comes along with a lot of things, but also as much as you can teach people, you know, I think a lot of people, and some people are forced into this because of the economy, you know, and then they realize, well, they're not going to die, you know, they're going to be okay. People who don't travel and don't see outside of the suburbs, who don't get down to the city, you know, they think they couldn't live if they didn't have their fill in the blank, you know. You find out you can. You find out you can. And it's great. It's very freeing. You feel safer. You know, like I can handle anything. Traveling, camping, that kind of thing is really good for this. So. Giving up being busy. Say Jamang
Jaman.
Pang.
Pang.
Jamang Pang. Pang is giving something up. We had a lot of that in the vows course. It was, you know, Pang, to give up this or to give up that. Giving up being too busy. That's another thing. We get addicted to errands, right? You know, it's like I have a little time. I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. And it's like you really don't need to. You know, make a list of things you're going to do for the day, and then cross half of them off because you don't really need to. All right. We get a little scared if we're not busy, especially in retreat. You'll go into retreat thinking, well, I'm going to get caught up on my ACI homeworks, or I'm going to study this other thing while I'm doing this main practice. you know, and it's like you got no, you gotta focus on meditation. You gotta focus on your practice. You know, the other stuff can wait. And in general, in life, you know, we can get caught up in, I'm in this club, I'm doing that, you know, I'm not only studying at, or practicing at P5, I'm also at 3 other studios doing 4 different arts. You know, oh, and I'm doing an art class, oh, and I'm doing yoga, oh, and, you know, it can get to be too much. Oh, and I'm taking night classes, you know. It's very easy for us, and part of it is, look, you know, we want to distract ourselves from the realities of life, so we keep ourselves busy. And it's a big problem, you know. As long as I'm busy, I'm okay. As long as I'm doing something, I'm okay. What was it? Pema Chodron wrote a book? No, or maybe it was, I don't know. There's a book out there that says, that's entitled, Don't Do Something, Just Sit There. You know, the opposite of don't just sit there, do something. Don't do something, just sit there. And people don't want to do that, okay? They don't want to go there. And then what's that? Alanis Morissette song. At one point it goes, why are you so terrified of silence? And then it's silent for, you know, a few beats, and it says, you know, did you think about your bills, your ex, your something, or when you think you're going to die? Or did you long for the next distraction? Dharma and pop culture, man, it's everywhere. It's great. So really hard thing to do, but think about it a lot. Okay, and 2 of these I got backwards again. Number 5 is really number 6, and number 6 is number 5. I don't know why I do that. I'm going down the list when I'm making the posters. I go, oh, skip one. The next one is Namtok Pang. Say Namtok.
Namtok.
Pang.
Pang.
Now should I do them in the row that they're in the... No, let's jump down. Let's go down to Sultram Dakpa. Say Sultram.
Sultram.
Dakpa.
Dakpa.
Okay. Living an ethical way of being, or an ethical way of being. Just don't harm people and things. Don't think about how much you hate somebody or how much somebody's hurt you, okay? You cannot get to deep states of meditation unless you're following some kind of ethical code and trying to do a good job of it, okay? I mean, my teacher, Geshe Michael, he talks all the time about, you know, talk to people that have been doing like highest Buddhist trainings, you know, Tantra and all of this, you know, and they've done retreats, and they're so how's it going? He says, I don't know if anything's happening. And I go, are you keeping your vows? And they go, oh, I kind of know them. I looked at them, and it's like, no, vows are what makes it work, you know? It's like, my airplane isn't working. How are the wings? Wings? You know, it's like that, okay? Lots of times, nightstand Buddhists, you know, or kind of, you know, half and half spiritual people, they're interested in, you know, exciting things like emptiness, you know, and and they want to learn to meditate and have all these great, you know, things happen, you know, but it comes down to an ethical way of life. And Geshe Michael talks about they wanted to publish a book, Nagarjuna's Letter. It's a famous Dharma thing. It's Arya Nagarjuna was pretty much a founder who brought out the middle way. Great guy from about 200 AD. And he and a king said, "Look, I'm busy. How do I practice?" And he wrote this great thing called Nagarjuna's Letter. And in it, the first half of the letter, he's talking about an ethical way of life. You have to do this, that, and the other thing, you know, and then things will start to pop for you. And then he talks about, in the second half, this is what starts to pop, and he starts to talk about emptiness. So they wanted to publish a translation of this. The publisher said, you know, that first part's really boring, but all that emptiness stuff, that's really cool. We'll publish that. And they just said, like, forget it. You know, it's like, this part does not work without that part. And the same with meditation. One reason I found this path, and I really hooked on to Geshe Michael, when he talked about doing the 6 times book, keeping your, checking yourself on your Buddhist vows, it's like, this is great. This is something to do rather than, you know, read Dharma and try and meditate. And then you find out you do this other stuff, you keep these Buddhist vows, and it's like, wow, the meditation and the understanding of the study is like popping. It's magic. It's magic, you know, it's really great. So anyway, yeah, in retreat, you know, spiders in the meditation thing, you very carefully take them, maybe whisper some mantras to them, take them outside. You don't just go, I'm trying to meditate. You know, that's not going to work. Not going to work. Okay, and obviously this is outside of life, an outside of life quote, you know, for meditation. So, you know, all these things we're listing, the conditions, and the 5 parts of the first one, and then the 5 other ones, it's very important that these are in this course, and I hope maybe you'll teach people, you know, learn it well enough to teach people, because a lot of people try meditation, they just got bored, and then they leave it, and that's tragic. That's tragic. These things all list what makes it work, you know. The preparations we talked about, bringing the conditions to yourself, they're all things that make it work. Or people would just get bored and wander away. All right, and then the next one, going back to Namtok Pam. Say Namtok?
Namtok.
Pam.
Pam.
Okay, giving up sense craving. All right, we've all heard that, you know, oh, Buddhism, you're supposed to give up your desires. Okay, that's not exactly true. You desire enlightenment, you desire to help other people. It's good to want to desire to become a good meditator and all of that. What this means is you're trying to meditate and you're thinking cinnamon roll. You know, it happens, you know. It's kind of like reeling them in, okay? In our normal life, our antenna's out all the time. Our listening, our seeing, our smell, you know, and we just automatically go to, you know, whatever's there, you know. I mean, I always think about dogs. They're like perfect examples of what they're like. They're sniffing everything, they're looking at everything, you know. Part of us is like that all the time, okay? To try and meditate, you just got to go, okay, yeah, I hear that really cool song, either playing somewhere or in your head. And it's like, I'm just going to let that go. And zzz, you know, just bring in the antenna. You know, I don't need that, okay? The place where you meditate. This could be a great meditation going by. I love the gray and black and white and everything, you know, nothing to draw your eyes away. Really nice that way. You can really focus on your practice and excel, you know. Yeah, you know, the cravings will hit you when you're in retreat, you know. It's like, you're 2/3 of the way in the retreat, and it's like, dude, I'm going to eat so much pizza when I get out of here, you know, or whatever, you know. Whatever it is, you just got to like say, okay, thanks for sharing, now put that away, you know. You know, simple clothes, simple colors, sounds to a minimum. That's what you need to get good at meditating, you know. And you become more sensitive the more you practice, you know. It's like, it's too much for me to go into my friend's good home theater system with, you know, 37 speakers or whatever and a great big screen. It's like, it's too much, you know. It's like, my mind doesn't need that. And super violent movies, you know, I remember when they were scary movies. I know when they were a rush, but it's kind of sweet in that, you know, movies that have emotional content or excitement or something in it, you know, I feel like I'm more keyed into them, okay? But there's this thing of like trying to be as intense as possible in some movies, you know? It's like, I don't like it, you know? I don't want that in my mind anymore, you know? It's too much. It's too much. For me, you know, your mileage may vary. Do you want to say something? Okay. So now I was making cracks about Diamond Mountain. Here's what is really great about it, okay? You're 16 miles from the nearest town on a road that has nothing on it but cows and cactus, all right? That is really great because you can't decide I'm just going to pop over to the store, you know? It's got to be a big thing. You know, desert scrub, it's all kind of gray, green, you know, some things in it. It's when you're at Diamond Mountain for like days or weeks, you really don't notice it, but you get happier because it's boring as hell, but there's nothing to take your mind, you know, except other people. And then you start thinking, how can I take care of other people? And how can I practice more? And you're surrounded by people. The good friends thing, you know, I always joke about it's like going back to the mothership, you know, during term. It's like, here's everybody trying to, you know, serious about trying this practice, you know, and you can't like get away from it. You could start talking about some stupid, useless stuff, but there's kind of this thing like, you know, whereas, you know, conversation in the office would be fine. So all my stuff about Diamond Mountain, the starkness of it is amazing and really good for meditation. You're surrounded by really great people. And it's really, really good for meditation. It's a tenpay. It's a place that's good for meditation. So you have to find something like that, you know, and it's not too hard. You just get 20 minutes out of town anywhere, you know, and you're good, really. Or if you live in nice, quiet suburbs, or if you're unemployed a lot and you're, you know, in a neighborhood when everyone else is gone, it's great, you know, for retreat or whatever else, or just being good at meditating. So that is the 6 conditions. And the first one having 5 parts of its own. Other retreat stories. Yeah, mice can be a disaster. You know, if you get too far out in the country, and then you're trying to sleep, and you know, something's chewing on something, you know, and it's like, it just freaks you out, you know. I mean, not in a bad way. Something I should talk about. When you do a lot of meditation, even if you don't have all these conditions and you're not totally isolated. I have a friend in India, and she's getting really into the teachings, and her teacher gave her this intense purification practice, Vajrasattva, and you're focusing a lot in the heart area, and she's starting to have trouble like not being able to sleep, you know, more anxiety, more, and it's like, that's called lung in Tibetan. Say lung.
Lung.
It's spelled out like lung, but it's a wind disorder, it's a chi disorder, it's a prana disorder, and it can happen from too much meditation. It can definitely happen in retreat. And it can take all kinds of different forms. You know, your emotions can start to get really intense. Like if you're sad out in the world, you get really sad. You know, if you're angry at somebody, it's like, you know, so it can amplify your emotions. You can just get giddy and silly and start laughing for no reason. You can have like, you know, near panic attacks, you know, like, you know, anxiety. And it's just from meditating too intensely. You know, when you're in retreat, you're kind of playing this edge. You want to like just get up to the edge of the loom because you want to push yourself, but if you go over, it can ruin an entire retreat. And it can be really serious. It can cause serious physical ailments. It can cause mental ailments. And so it's something you have to be aware of. You should be in contact with an experienced meditator. So anyway, my friend, she's telling me these things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have loom, you know, what's that? And it's like, what do I do? You have to start eating some heavy, oily foods. Like if you're in a retreat, you know, have the buttered popcorn ready, or the chips and nachos or something like that, something to kind of ground you a little bit. Doing any kind of exercise, just like warm-ups, not like a full workout, but it's like, that's why yoga's great. Yoga's awesome for retreat. Yoga was always meant to help you with spiritual things. It wasn't like, you know, to have a yoga butt and buy $80 yoga pants, okay? It was always to help retreat. We'll talk some more about that in the second half. But yeah, lung is something that can be, so you should have an experienced meditator helping you out when you're doing a retreat. Some people just say, I'm just going to go into the woods, I'm going to take my tent, I'm going to camp out, you know, in Temecula somewhere and just, you know, be out of contact with everybody, you know, full renunciate, you know, like, what was that movie about that guy, Into the Wild? Yeah, he just like took off thinking he was going to be, you know, I'm going to live off the land, and he like dies, you know. There's a retreat version of that, which is thinking, I don't need anything, I'm going to be in a tent. Then it's too hot, it's too cold, ants get into your food, you freak out, you know. There's lots of ways to do it wrong. But these conditions really help. And as you teach other people, and I hope you will, you know, if they're not having much luck meditating, it's those preparations and it's these conditions. Without fail. That's what's going on. So, questions? I think I've been talking at you for about an hour. Should probably take a break. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Cut it and So have a nice break, snack, about 20 minutes.